Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So, on the back of the podcast that I'm making now, um, which is I think 681, war, protest, and homelessness, sort of looking at um, more than just a war now, that this hatred is spreading over for those Jews that are scared in Western countries and in Israel, and those Muslims also that are scared in Gaza and Palestine and in the West as well. Hate crime for both has gone up. This is just giving those people that probably don't like either fuel or energy to be racist or whatever the term is for against religion, Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. But what I really wanted to talk about was because I felt that the last bit that I put on, that I tagged on the end of that Pursuit of Truth, was about this father carrying his child, and I felt I needed to address the camera with that bit because it was just so moving, and I will try and edit at the end of this that clip, or maybe I'll put the link at the bottom and then you can find it. It was so, or maybe it'd be the picture, I guess, of this. Just so harrowing to see that. And it doesn't matter, like I said in the thing, it's not, obviously I do have a background of being a convert to Islam. Although these days, it's been years since I could really call myself an Ahmadi Muslim. But I did learn a lot, and maybe that sometimes sways how I see these things, but I don't think I really do see it that way. I think some people could use that as a sort of saying, oh, that's why you're, so up about what's happening in Gaza, but it's not. I see things from a human level. I do believe in God. I'm not sure I believe in anymore whether I can trust what's been written down, or even whether God really does exist or not. I don't know, because the thing is, like, everything's been shaken since I've had the thought of the flat Earth and 9/11 and stuff like that, and even if those things turn out to be that the Earth is a globe and 9/11 was exactly as it was prescribed, the very thought of challenging what you're told and thinking about it and looking at it and for yourself has opened my mind up to, I always knew this, that you can't always believe what you're told, and we've seen that through history, and there's precedent and examples and evidence for those people in power and any people, because humans always have I don't think it is intrinsic, but the ability to lie, because we've been taught that, or we've allowed to cultivate it. And therefore, it's very important to do research yourself. It's very difficult, I know. I don't know where I'm really going on to this. But we're getting back to what I was talking about. Is this guy with this small bundle, this young child in a white shroud, him taking it to, he was a journalist, a photographer, I believe. He had a press jacket on, and he's taking his firstborn to see his wife, who was also injured in this blast in a refugee camp, which obviously you'd expect that to be safe, and in the south of Gaza, where the IDF told people to go where it would be safe. And I don't know whether the IDF have admitted responsibility of that yet. I know they admitted responsibility of a previous refugee camp, where I think it was 100 that were injured, and one senior Hamas person was the target, and their justification was that they were going for him. And I've talked about that previously, so I don't know whether, it doesn't really matter who did it. I mean, I'm not looking at it through the man-made construction, the system, and how we tagged ourselves. I'm looking at it from a human perspective. One set of humans, whoever they are, have done this for whatever reason. They've done this, and this one existence of this child is over in the most brutal way. And this man taking it to his wife, who was also injured in hospital, to say goodbye to their child before he took it to this burial ground with his other 3 children to bury. And there wasn't enough room in the truck, or they chose to take it in the front seat, the child with him, and kissing the child to say goodbye. I mean, as a parent and having young children myself, just putting myself in that situation, because, you know, this is the problem where I've talked about these world leaders, these suited leaders, these stoic approaches, and we see this a lot in our world, in not just leadership roles where it comes to politics, in lots of roles, of this lack of emotion, lack of empathy, lack of humanity. And remember, we are human beings. We've ascribed this name to ourselves, rather aptly. I don't know whether really we do deserve that title, as I've often questioned on the pursuit of the truth, because what is humanity? Humane is something kind, something empathetic, something loving. And yes, we can be all those things, but all too often there's a lot of us that don't follow suit in that terminology. And just to see this suffering, and yet it still goes on, and people in suits can go around and round tables and discuss and vote and veto and talk and postulate and give money and do all sorts of things, but not actually stop the problem or solve the problem. And I think the problem is because the system that we live within, it's never going to be solvable, because the system that we live within, we've, you know, from my perspective, the old ways, new ways type thing that I talk about a lot on here, is that we're all human beings. That's fact. That's intrinsical fact. That's where we start from. But back in our history, we've decided to divide ourselves up, give ourselves tags. You're English, you're American, you're Russian, you're Chinese, you're Israeli, you're Palestinian, you're, you know, whatever, rather than human. And then we've had all these things where every country has banks, schools, education, police, all the same, you know, template, strangely, has been replicated everywhere, despite people having different political persuasion, like democracy and dictatorships, or whatever the polite term for that is. I can't remember. I think it starts with an A. So there's lots of different persuasions, lots of different ways of looking at it. You know, you got the, you know, and they two fight against each other because we've been segregated in that way, and that allows that. And whilst that's always there, I don't think we can ever solve these problems. And also with money as well. You know, all banks lead down to, I think there's a few banks that really control the money issue. And obviously, I don't know how we came about ranking, you know, pounds, dollars, yen, rands, whatever currency. They've all been ranked historically, and that's led certain countries to be above other countries. I know originally it was based on gold, but a lot of gold was stolen from poor and what are now considered poorer countries. A lot of that gold was taken somewhere else. So I don't know really the system that we use for money, whether it was even fair to start with. But it's not, because not everyone's equal. Not all countries' currency is equal. There's a discrepancy, and that discrepancy is purposefully done to allow the rich and the poor to have that disparity, and and that will continue with the fighting, continue with, you know, the abuse of humanity. Whereas you get, you know, the West will continue to be powerful because their currency is more powerful than the poorer countries, and they can use that and benefit from that, which we see in our day-to-day lives. And even though there may be aid and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't, you know, there's lots of money that's lent that, you know, because with money there is also interest, and that's where you can keep someone, you know that for yourself from your own personal way. If you've ever got debt, the interest is what always keeps you in that same position, because you're always, you can never pay it off, and you're always in that. You know, it's like being owing to the mafia. And that happens on a worldwide scale. That's what keeps countries poor and rich countries rich. The same as what's happening in a micro level is happening in a macro level, if I've got that the right way around. So while these things, like the way we've separated ourselves, you know, we found ourselves, let's be honest now, and I know I did the teaching one of this, didn't I? But the truth is that we found ourselves here. we don't know where we are, why, and all this kind of stuff. Maybe it's just accidental and we just suddenly appeared. But we had free reign to do whatever we want. Even if you do believe in religion, where God has said, you have free reign to do what you want. I'm not going to interfere, and I'll judge you on that later. So we do all have free reign, whichever way you look at it. But we've, over time, chosen a system where the land and everything, every resource is free. The coal, the electricity, the water, the air, everything that we manufacture into something else, that or every basis, you could say like, well, this person worked out this, that, and the other, like electricity or TVs or phones or whatever, and why shouldn't they have a monopoly over those things? But all those resources came from that free environment that we've all found ourselves upon. But it's just that we tagged those things now and said that you have to pay for your water and your electricity, even though it's all free to all of us. And those people in the past have changed that. Currently, we don't have to pay for air, but would it have been any more ludicrous if we did have to? Because we all need water to live, and we all need air to live, but we pay for water. I guess they thought, charging people for air would be difficult to actually, because they couldn't control it. They couldn't. If they could have somehow put a bubble around it, we would have been paying for air as well to live. And that, because of this way, this is what creates poverty, it creates crime, it creates all sorts of things. It's a failed system that's never going to work. Until you correct that, we're always going to have these problems and nothing's going to solve them. That's why over our history, even over the modern history of the last 100 years, all these skirmishes, all these deaths, all these, famines and all this stuff is a product of these things. But no one ever talks about that because we don't want a realization of that. We don't want a realization of that because those people in power and those people who are empowering them, like the media and institutions, even religions and charities, because they never sort of say, well, let's get rid of money. They're never saying the things that I'm saying to you now. Why aren't they saying these things? I'm not cleverer than anyone else. I can't be the first person that's ever thought about any of this. And any truther has probably gone through this process, because this is what, when you start with these things, this is where it leads to. You start to think about, wait a minute, if I believe this, and where did I get this from? Everything that's in my mind, where's it all come from? I was a baby who knew nothing. Where did it all come from? Where do my thoughts come from? Am I just regurgitating program responses? A lot of it, yes. But yeah, there is some freedom of me to work things out because I've come to this conclusion. So we do have that freedom of mind. But there's a lot of it, some people never get to that because we just keep believing and believing and believing and never questioning and never going back to where did everything come from? And did everything that go in here, was it ever true, accurate, or right, or moral, or honest, or intrinsically truthful? And a lot of people maybe listen to this and were thinking, well, this is fanciful, this is utopian, this is kumbaya, whatever. No, it's not. Just really look at it. Look at everything that you've been taught. Go through all these things. Go through your day-to-day life and see it. Do you believe that the way we're living is the best? It may be best for you. It may be best for those who are rich. It may be the best for those who are in suits, who are trying to keep that on their throne and keep everything in status quo and everything like this, because they will say, well, there'll be anarchy if we don't do it, or, whatever. But people are dying and suffering anyway. Surely the greatest minds, those who should be doing this, like religious people and those who believe in humanity, should be coming up with solutions and ideas better than I can, and saying that let's redo this system. But the problem is, like the genie's out of the bag, as I often say. The problem is now getting people to capitulate, to agree to giving up money, giving up their power, is not going to happen, because these people, it's been ingrained, and that's the problem. It would have to start at the children level, because those people who already have this in there, they're never going to give it up. They're never going to want to, it's like when everyone talks about communism, everyone thinks like, oh, it's the worst thing, and everyone gets really irate about it. But what communism is really about, not practice communism, but the Karl Marx, the idea of communism was that everyone shares everything, and there's nothing wrong in that. Why would we all worry about everyone sharing everything? But the problem is the practice communism is turned into dictatorship, and or just the same thing as what the economic countries do, but worse. So that's like coloured it, but to show that that's a lot of people get irate about that without even thinking about, wait a minute, why would we be worried about everyone being equal, everyone having a share of everything? It's like my idea is probably that it got people thinking, no, I don't want that. I love being unequal. I love being poor and those people being rich and keeping the 1%, keeping everything and being able to do everything they ever wanted with their lives and controlling all of us. While we fight and we are taught to fight each other to who controls us. Whereas we're all equal. We're all born with the same power and all equal and should be. But yeah, anyway, getting back to that, this child, this suffering, it broke me. And you can hear that in my emotion. And there's been a few of these events that have broken me seeing them. And there was also another this morning, a charity talking about cleft lip. That really got to me. And I don't know if it was because I was watching this sci-fi second series, the last episode called From, or situations that are going on. And, Victor, who's childlike but is a grown adult, he gave a packed lunch, and it just made me feel sentimental, this idea of a childlike human, as it were. But seeing this child with a cleft lip and how, like, if nothing's done and this child would be alone, and obviously I know what those feelings feel like and all that kind of stuff. That's why I do have this empathy, because of my life that I've gone through, although nothing like what I'm talking about. And just seeing this poor child, I was thinking to myself, is this the way we want to live? Is this the way we're living? Where people have to ask for charity in far off places so that this child can, the cleft lip, because it was broken with a gap in between his teeth growing on the lip, to have surgery, which can be done. And this child would have a perfect lip and perfect teeth and perfect life, and not be, we've all seen the film The Elephant Man, how people are treated when they have disability, or I was going to say dysmorphia. It's not dysmorphia, is it? Like when you have something wrong with your face, because people have been taught. This is another thing. People have been taught there's such thing as beauty. There's no such thing as beauty. Yeah, surprise, there isn't. It's a man-made construct, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as we've often been told, but we never thought about it. There's nothing. Beauty is the idea of us all getting together and saying, well, this is beautiful and this is not so beautiful. But there's no such thing that is objective. It's not truthful. Everything is beautiful, not beautiful, whichever way you want to put it. Because I think it is this way, that everything is beautiful. Life is beautiful. Every person is beautiful. And we've been taught that this type of person is more beautiful than this type of person. This way of looking, the way of the makeup of the face or the body is more beautiful than this. And over the years, we believed in it. That's slowly changing now. But it's still in our mind. This is another thing. It's a program that's in our mind. It's false, but we all believe in it. And we would all fight to believe in that aspect. People are probably angry saying, no, yeah, people are beautiful. I'm beautiful. This person's beautiful. I know, I can see beauty. We forget the things in here, we never had control of what was put in there and whether it was right. So anyway, yeah, so this poor child, and I was thinking, that's why I wanted to bring it up. This is the world we live in. This is the choice we make. We could do that. What's actually stopping the child from having this surgery in the country they live in is poverty, or lack of skills. But remember, there's enough people, there's enough energy. There's enough people can be trained. And what stops that training is money and poverty and all these kinds of things. And the situation is, with the system we live in, that, discrepancy of countries. And that's what leaves, where you go to a rich country and you find all this technology and all this great life, and a poor country where you see them living like people here did 200 years ago. This is not necessary, because everything, the people are there, the energy there, the skills are there. The way to educate people are there. The way to all the resources is all there. It's just they can't be tapped into, because this one wants to steal it from this one, or this one wants to keep higher than this one. And I'm just thinking, this is the choice we're all making. This is the thing that we're voting in. This is the thing that we're keeping up. We always want to change little small things, band-aids for little things. The whole system needs changing from root up. Everything needs changing. But I don't know how you do it, because the problem is no one's going to want to do it, because we've all been programmed up here. And those ones that are really enjoying it, are they really going to find that humanity and empathy to say, yeah, let's all be equal? Because if that was the case, they would be all giving their money to everyone in the first place. But they're not doing that. They're keeping all their money to themselves. Even these multi-billionaires, millionaires, that can never use all that money. Yeah, some of them give charity, but there's lots of money that, musicians, writers, politicians, entrepreneurs, businessmen, all have in their banks, they're never going to use all their families. Footballers, all sorts of money that is just that they're going to squander and waste. And they're never going to hand it out to everyone. They're never going to think, oh, let's all be equal. I wish we lived in that and we wouldn't need. But so that's why I think it has to change somehow. And I don't know, probably like the H.G. Wells thing that I always talk about, ascribe to him, about the only way of humanity changing itself is like a massive nuclear bomb and it kills most of the people and we start again. But the problem is, like I always say, we'll just start again, but with these minds, and we'll just recreate the same misery and suffering and system, thinking, yeah, that was brilliant, let's bring it back. Build back better, as everyone keeps saying, like after COVID, as if it was better. It wasn't better then. It is not going to be better now. But somehow we need to teach people that the intrinsics, that we're all human beings and that we all should be sharing everything. And those people thousands of years ago that labeled bits of country, bits of land, and said, this is ours, and we must protect it, and we must be patriotic, and we must be us and them, and all that kind of stuff. Us and them, as Pink Floyd put it. That's what needs to go. Because while we always think like that, we're always going to have these situations. And it may not affect you, but it will affect a large percentage of human civilization that only get one existence to live. And think about that one child now, life is over because of our system. It isn't just because of Israel and Palestine and all that. It's more than that. It's because of everything that's in here. And our way of seeing each other is what caused all of that. Anyway, I think I've waffled on enough. Please share this if you agree on this, so that it can get out there. I'm not worried about views and all that stuff. That's why I keep making these things and only get 3 views. What I want is other people to, if I'm right, if this is right what I'm saying, until other people say it, it's going to matter. It's not going to matter. My candle will go out. And no one was there to carry it on. And I need that, because I know I'm not going to live to see what I want to see. I'm always going to live this suffering life, this humanity, this not humanity that we live in, and see this suffering to other people, my fellow human beings, my brothers and sisters. I'm always going to see that. And when I say brothers and sisters, I'm talking about every person in humanity, past, present, and future. I would like it for my children not to have to go through this that I'm going through, or their children, or their children, whatever it is. Right, take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace.